A lot of people in the gym, they train 3 sets of 10 reps and they don't know why. It's honestly just a tradition at this point, but I'm gonna go ahead and tell you the history behind 3 sets of 10. So back in the early 1940s and also in the early 1950s, two exercise physiologists, DeLorme and Watkins, they were researching rehab and strengthening exercises for wounded soldiers, and they came up with the protocol of doing sets of 10. They refined it down to doing 3 sets of 10. And in these 3 sets of 10, it was not 3 sets of 10 with a hard effort. The first set was at 50% for 10 reps, 50% of the working weight. The next set was 75% of the working weight. And then the final set was 100% with a 10 rep maximum to failure. And so what they found was this was a great protocol to get the muscles warmed up in the client before attempting the 10 repetition maximum. The first 2 sets were warm-up sets, and this is how they performed it in order to get results for their injured soldiers. I also want to point out that their repetitions were performed very differently to how most people perform them in the gym. They did their sets of 10 and they performed it under strict muscular control. They did not drop the weight, let gravity do the work on the negative. They did not use any outside forces or momentum to get the weight up for the concentric. So the repetitions would be much more controlled than anyone's repetitions that you probably see in a commercial gym today. This later took off and of course was misapplied to be 3 sets of 10, as if all 3 sets are hard efforts, when in fact DeLorme and Watkins even stated in their book and in their research that if the first set of 10 or the second set of 10 was too demanding and interfered with their 10 rep maximum, then instead of performing 10 reps, should only be performing 5. And they even stated that if you did just the 10 repetition maximum, you should get the same results as the other protocol. So even the people who created 3 sets of 10 are saying that no, you could just do the 1 set of 10 to failure. The other 2 sets are warm-up sets and don't actually produce the stimulus of progressing the client like the final set does. So take that for what it's worth. To me, what that says is if you are doing 3 sets of 10 actually hard, all 3, you're doing too much. You're doing more than they recommended. They already narrowed it down just to 3 sets because it was too much doing more than that. So you're definitely pushing it too hard if you're doing 3 hard sets of 10. And they also recommended taking that last set to a 10 repetition maximum to failure. So what that tells me is training to failure worked for them. Even the people that you could say invented volume training, which they didn't, even they made sure to take that final set to failure. From here, you might wonder, how did such high volumes eventually get introduced into bodybuilding? Well, the history behind that is Reg Park. Okay, so Reg Park was a famous bodybuilder who ended up writing a book called The Secret of Multiple Set Training. Okay, at this point it was a secret. That's how normal it was to train just 1 set per exercise. And then as this evolved, you have Arnold Schwarzenegger, who was a huge fan of Reg Park. He idolized Reg Park, wanted to be like him and train like him. So Arnold Schwarzenegger obviously ended up becoming the most popular bodybuilder at the time, and he won the most Olympias. And so that sprungboard for higher volumes to be introduced into training, which doesn't mean it's right. It just became popular. Now it's tradition to do multiple sets. You don't even hear about anybody doing single set training. It's assumed that, especially in the research, that they're going to use multiple sets because they think that that's better. When, as I just described to you, the inventors of 3 sets of 10 said you could just do the 10 repetition maximum at the end and get the same results. So take for what it's worth.